Today we're talking about self-policing the real estate and real estate agents policing each other. This is the Get Your Ass to Work podcast, episode 46. The reason we're talking about this today is because real estate is coming under fire from different government agencies. Huge lawsuits are happening right now about the way that real estate agents are conducting business. This kind of started recently. It's actually been going on for a long time, but it's really catching a lot of attention right now in the newspapers and the media, because what's happening is that the lawsuits are targeting real estate because they feel that the sellers in real estate should not have to pay the buyer's agents, and that buyer's agents are leading people towards homes that pay the highest commission, and there's all kinds of unethical things going on in real estate. And for a big part, there are a lot of unethical real estate agents. I hate to say it, but you guys do a lot of fucked up things. Now, there's a lot of you out there who are upstanding. Don't get me wrong. There's a lot of great agents out there who would never do anything on purpose to try to harm somebody in a real estate transaction. But there's a lot of shit out there. And here is the solution that the real estate board has come up with. They're going to raise the hours of book work. I want you guys to listen to this really closely. They're going to raise the hours of book work from 90 hours of pre-licensing to 120 hours of pre-licensing. Remember that. 120 hours of pre-licensing is what they are going to raise it up to for you to be able to take the test and get a real estate license and immediately go out and practice real estate. And I'm going to cover two other industries right now and what it takes for them. And then we're going to compare it to real estate so that you have a clear understanding of why that is bullshit. Now, this is my opinion. It's fucking bullshit. It sucks. It does nothing to get people ready for real estate. And you wonder why there's so many unethical and shitty people practicing real estate. It takes nothing to get your real estate license. So let's look at one industry, and I'm going to read through it first, and then we'll tell you what the industry is. On average, 1,500 to 2,100 training hours. I want you guys to hear that word, training hours. That means you are actually doing this activity, okay? This program could either be 2,000 hours if you're in New York, 2,000 hours if you're in Montana, or 1,000 hours if you're in New York. Let's look at the cost in order to get into this industry. $16,000 are the estimated tuition and fees in order for you to take 12 months, minimum 12 months of training. This is actually doing the activity for 12 months. And then there's books and supplies, $3,500 of the estimated fees. Now, this is full time. Guys, this is 1 year of full-time training. That's just the cost for the tuition and the fees, not to mention, what about living expenses? I mean, what about getting, other jobs in order to pay for this? Because you can't work 40 hours if you're going full time. So you are going to have to figure out how to do this. And a lot of people go to the government and get a student loan in order to take this. Now, what am I talking about? Cosmetology. This is to cut fucking hair and do nails. Now, this is important. I'm not downplaying it just because you're cutting hair. Look, you could stab someone with scissors, give them a serious infection. They could fucking die. Like, I'm not saying as a downplay that, you have to do this just to cut hair. I know that shit's serious, but I'm saying 1,500 fucking hours and $16,000 tuition just to get your ass in the door to cut hair. And we're helping people sell homes and make these huge financial decisions, selling $500,000, $1 million homes. All right, let's take a look at another industry. If we're not taking this shit serious, let's look at another industry. All right, general requirements to qualify for this one is 75 hours of education book work. And then I believe you take a test. I'm not 100% sure, but I believe you take a test. Now, to get your first level license for this, It's 1,000 hours of acceptable experience in no fewer than 6 months. No fewer than 6 months. Please pay attention to that. You cannot do this with a minimum of 1,000 hours in no fewer than 6 months, okay, for the basic level. To get a next level up, a bachelor's degree, an associate's degree, or 1,500 hours of acceptable experience. And to get another level higher up, it's 3,000 hours. Guys, that is serious training, okay? You got 1,000 hours. What am I talking about? This is to become an appraiser. This is to just go out and be able to assign a value to a property, to become an appraiser. Now, I don't know all the ins and outs of an appraiser. I'm sure there's a lot more than they do that what I'm describing here. I don't know all of it. But at the end of the day, what are they doing? They're going out and figuring out the value for a property. They are not even, as far as I know, taking on any huge liability, or, they don't have the responsibility of what happens when a sale goes wrong. They are not taking on the liability of having to know all the ins and outs of these septic systems and being responsible for what happens if someone gets the wrong information. They're not responsible for the person even selling the home. They're responsible for assigning the value to it, generally speaking, so that the bank can decide whether or not to take a risk on the loan, or the lender, or whatever. They're just assigning a value. And these people have 1,000 hours. Let's compare this on what it takes to become a real estate agent. Be at least 18 years old. Complete your pre-license education. That's 90 hours. You guys heard about the hours that we talked about for those other two professions. Cutting hair, 1,500 hours. Real estate appraiser, 75 hours of book work, and then 1,000 hours of in-person training that they find acceptable. Real estate, 90-hour pre-license education, online, basically low-level shit, understanding vocabulary. That's what it is. Pass your real estate license examination, and then guess how many training hours you have to have before you can go out and sell homes? Zero. Before you can go represent a client in the sale of their home, you don't need a Stanford education. You don't need training. You don't need to even have 1 hour in the field. You need to pass a fucking test. 0 is that number. Do you guys see a fucking problem here? Do you guys see a problem with the Board of Real Estate thinking that they're going to get the federal government off their back if they raise the book work? And in my opinion, I'm not saying anything about the people who teach these programs, the bullshit book work that you have to learn in order to become a real estate agent and get your license and go practice from 90 hours to 120 hours. It's fucking absurd. It's fucking ridiculous. You do not have to apprentice to become a real estate agent, and there is so much to know. And you wonder why people take our profession as a joke. You wonder, I hear people talk shit about real estate agents. They're like, oh yeah, it's like, my hairdresser's a real estate agent. That hairdresser went through more fucking hours to become a hairdresser than they did to be a real estate agent. They are better trained in their profession. They are better trained in their profession of cutting hair than what we do for real estate agents who are representing all of your finances. Could be possibly all of your finances. Definitely your financial future. And there are so many mistakes to be made in contracts that can cost you money, get you involved in lawsuits. Look, if you fuck up cutting someone's hair, they got to grow it out again, and you might lose that client. You fuck up in real estate, you could get yourself, your company, your client into a major fucking lawsuit that could cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. It happens. I'm not going to say all the time, but this shit happens. You could lose your clients $30,000 overnight because you make a mistake in pricing a home, which, by the way, you're not a licensed appraiser. Wouldn't it make sense that before you get your real estate license, you have to have basic appraisal knowledge? like 75 hours of being an appraiser before you can even get into real estate? Shouldn't it be like, the prerequisite is you got to be an appraiser before you can even get in, and then you got to, go learn some law, like serious fucking education. I wouldn't be opposed to it because there are so many agents that need it. There are so many ways that we are fucking up as an industry that is causing the heat coming down, and why the real estate is going to go the way of the dodo unless you get serious. Unless you get fucking serious about this as a profession, you are going to continue to have people who limp into the industry with basically no hours whatsoever under their belt. They have 90 hours of book work, which doesn't fucking teach you shit. To basically teaches you to get past a test, and then you're free to roam about the country and do real estate. And so when it comes to self-policing other real estate agents, which was the title of this podcast, it wasn't to bag on other people. It was self-policing within the real estate industry. You senior agents really need to fucking step up when you see some bullshit going on and speak out. But here's the truth. Many of you agents are too scared to speak out when you see something happening. And let me give an example. There was a husband-wife team. I don't know all the details, but I'm going to give an example, and it could be probably 90% true, and I'm missing 10% of the details. But just take this story as a general story that's kind of something that just happened. Husband-wife team had been listing homes and listing a buyer's agent's commission to be $75 in the MLS. Basically what they're doing is they're trying to make sure that no agents are going to bring their clients because they want to double end the deal and get both sides of the commission. Well, if it's only $75, how are they doing that? Well, they would go back and change the contract or some stupid shit, some unethical way. They're going back and basically double ending the deal. So they're keeping all of the agents away to try to get their own buyer so that they can double end the deal. And agents knew this shit was happening. What the fuck did they do about it? Nothing. Eventually someone turned them in, but when they got turned in, all these agents came forth and were like, well, I knew what they were doing, but I didn't want to turn them in because I was going to get, blackballed by the real estate agent community. Because if you turn somebody in, they're not going to take your offer, because the next time you present an offer to another agent and be like, oh no, I know what kind of person you are. You're the type of person that if something happens, you're going to turn me into the board. Well, guess what? If you don't do anything wrong, you got nothing to fucking worry about first. And second of all, you know what you're doing by not turning people in? And I'm not saying you have to turn them in. I'll get to this next. But what you're doing by not saying anything is you're allowing the behavior to continue. And when you allow the behavior to continue and you don't take action, you're part of the fucking problem. All right. So what can you do if you don't want to turn people into the board? And I get it. You don't want to be a fucking snitch. Nobody wants to be the fucking tattletale. Some of you will. And I know who you are. Some of you are tattletales. But if you don't want to be that person, and most people don't want to be that person, I highly recommend that you either call that agent and call them out on their bullshit and let them know that you know, and hopefully that stops them from doing it, or you tell somebody who will do something about it. Okay, you tell somebody either aggressive enough who will call them and say, hey, we know what the fuck you're doing in this community right now. We don't approve it. Knock that shit off. Or you take it to the board. I mean, do something. Do not allow this type of bad behavior. And I know if you've been in real estate for more than a year, you have a bad behavior story. We all do. And we all probably have bad behavior stories from here to the moon. And most people turn a blind eye because they're like, I don't want to have to deal with that shit because then I get involved and it's going to take up my time. And it's pretty fucking selfish. I had this problem for a long time. I had this battle going on in my mind all the time, is that when people do something fucked up in real estate, whether or not I should say something. And I'm like, yeah, maybe I shouldn't say anything because, it's not my business to go out and police the world. I'm not the fucking division. I'm not the person, out there. And then I realized, you know what? When I do nothing, it's more than me just allowing that to continue. There are other people out there, totally innocent buyers and sellers, that are getting fucked. And I'm allowing them to get fucked. So look, you got to present yourself well to the other side when you give them a call. You don't got to be a dick. You don't got to be rude, but you got to give them a call and word them up. Say, hey, I see what you're doing here. I don't think that's the right thing to do. Why are you guys doing that? Make them explain themselves. Sometimes they may not even realize that they're doing something fucked up. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes people have so little training, they literally don't know they're doing something fucked up. And you got to give them a call and let them know. Because if you don't do it and no one else does, someone out there is getting harmed because you are too fucking weak to do something about it. And I say this, I don't care if you agree with it. I believe that your highest calling in real estate is to protect the general public and people in general in real estate, in all matters regarding real estate. Now, that means that sometimes you got to make an uncomfortable phone call and do some shit you don't want to do. Too bad. If you don't want to do it, turn in your fucking license. Seriously, if you can't make those phone calls and you can't at least make it known to someone else who will make that phone call, turn in your fucking license. I mean, quit turning a blind eye to this shit. And so, yeah, the real estate community is considered, whoa, we police ourselves. No, we don't. No, we don't. There's a few snitches out there who basically will only snitch out of reprisal, out of trying to get back at someone for something that they did to them. Then they'll turn them in. And that's bullshit too. That's taking it, oh, well, this person wronged me, so I'm going to make their lives miserable. Yeah, I know who you guys are out there who do that shit too. And that's dog shit. But if you see something that's not your problem, you just keep walking. Not everyone. Definitely not everyone. There's good eggs out there, and there are people that'll step it up. But you guys really better step it up and police the community, because I already read to you how easy it is to get a real estate license. Why in the fuck do you think that this is going to be an ethical, upstanding profession when you've got it that easy to get in? And for you people now who are thinking about becoming a real estate agent, or you want to become a real estate agent, get in now, because I guarantee that one day those standards are going to change, and it has never been easier to get into what I consider the best profession in the fucking world. I mean, really, it is no easier profession to get into. That's part of the problem, but it's also a blessing at this point in time if you were thinking about becoming a real estate agent, because it won't always be that easy. Guys, always thank you so much for listening. If you guys have any feedback about my program, you can always call me and tell me I'm wrong and argue with me. I like it. I don't want people to agree with me all the time. There's nothing more boring than going on Facebook and having everybody agree with everything you say. Like, I want to hear other ideas. So if you have them, message me on Facebook, get with me, call me directly, however you guys want to get a hold of me. And if you want to know about the EXP experience, we just joined EXP, the real estate company. They're doing things different than most other companies. They're definitely causing a stir. They've grown almost 100% in the last 18 months. They've gone from like 10,000 agents to 24,000 or some fucking number. It's crazy. There is a reason why people are moving over to EXP. I'll tell you why I moved, and we can discuss whether or not EXP is right for you. It's not right for everyone, but we can talk about that, and for sure, one fucking thing is sure. I know everyone loves me, but they know I'll tell the truth too. So whether or not you like me and what I have to say, I'm going to tell the truth from my point of view as to why I think this company is a great company, doing great things right now, who it's right for, and maybe who it's not right for. And we can have that discussion. Get a hold of me and we'll talk. Thank you guys for listening. We'll see you next week.